Good morning. Welcome to part 4 in our 5-part series titled Porn Kills Love. Let me ask you a question. This is a general question, really. Why is pornography so addicting? Why do men, primarily, and women desire to look at pornography? The answer is really quite simple. God created sex. He did. God made sex to be this total euphoric experience. That's why the brain releases so many chemicals of feel good and emotion and reward into the brain. That's why it releases all these chemicals into your brain. It's because God created it to work that way. It is the primarily number one fastest way for a euphoric high anywhere. And it's proven. God created it to be that way. You know, in the Song of Solomon's chapter 8, verse 6, it says this. It says, love, meaning love, sex, whatever, flashes like fire, the brightest kind of flame. Some translations read it this way. They read, the very flames of the Lord. It is meant to be so intense, so hot, that you can't forget it. You crave it. You can't forget it. You know, I've asked people this question that admit they struggle with porn. When was the first time you looked at porn? I have not a single person tell me they don't know. They can't remember. I myself was 10 years old. I remember the magazine that I saw. I still remember the pictures that were depicted in that magazine. I can't get those images out of my head. They are burned into my skull. Is what it is. Why? Because God created sex to be so intense, so euphoric that we never forget it. So, yesterday I made mention of something regarding pornography and not so much pornographic this time, but tempting. So tempting. God created, not God created, ladies, yoga pants. A friend of mine, good close brother of mine, said once, yoga pants are the devil's darts for him. And I couldn't agree more. But with that said, men, we got to watch ourselves too. And you might say, well, what do you mean? I want to read something to you. Just a short one. In Genesis chapter 39, okay? In Genesis chapter 39, we see a flip from the norm. Normally it's men tempted by women, women wearing, in today's age, women wearing little clothing, tight-fitting clothing, whatever. Here, in Genesis 39, we've got the story of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now, Joseph was a slave to Potiphar. Potiphar brought him in, made him, what did he make him? He made him he was captain of the guard of the Pharaoh. And the Lord blessed Joseph. Everything he did, he blessed. So his crops were good, his people were doing well, his house was doing good, all this. So Potiphar made him, he ruled everything. The only person at Potiphar that didn't have a higher authority than Potiphar was Joseph. And the only thing Joseph didn't have control over was Potiphar and Potiphar's wife, which Joseph was cool with this. He didn't mind. But I want to read you something. In verse 6 of chapter 39 in Genesis, it says this. It says, Joseph was a very handsome and a well-built young man. Okay? A well-built young man. And Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him lustfully. Come and sleep with me, she demanded. Now, you can go on and read if you'd like, but the point of this is women can fall into this trap as well. But what I want you to catch, and this is where men fail daily, is Potiphar's wife began to look at him lustfully. Men, how many times do we see women and we look at them lustfully? We don't take our eyes off. What they're wearing isn't bad by no means, but we continue to stare. We continue to look. Now, we're being lustful. Here's how we defeat that. Here's how we combat that. And it's found in Job. Yeah, the book of Job. Job 31:1 says this. It says, I made a covenant with my eyes to not look with lust at a young woman. I made a covenant with my eyes to not look with lust at a young woman. Now, you might be saying, Pastor Burns, Job didn't have a whole lot to look at. And I would agree. You got to think, the women in his time wore full-length robes, and the majority of the time he probably spent working the ground staring at the backside of a mule. That's not that tempting, is it? Whereas today's age, we are overrun with propaganda. We are overrun with media. We are overrun with all types of illicit sexual pornography. Any type of image that will make us burn for that desire. We're overrun with it. So, yeah, making a covenant with my eyes to not look lustfully is pretty darn hard. But men, some ladies, we need to do it. Now, that doesn't mean that the temptation ain't going to walk in front of us. We talked yesterday, the devil's going to drop you in a ring and tempt you and punch you square in the mouth. But do you stare at it? Do you keep looking? Or do you train your eyes? Do you train your eyes to notice a temptation and look away? Do you train your eyes to turn your eyes to Jesus and look to Him for His strength and His goodness? Do you train yourself when you see someone lustfully, you immediately call your spouse or text your spouse? These are all things that you can do to train yourself to not look and stare at someone lustfully. So today's daily drink is this. Just like Job did, just like Joseph did. Train your eyes, make a covenant with your eyes to not stare lustfully at someone else and run from that situation. Get out of there. Go be with the Lord and let His flames burn in you a passion for your spouse. That's my daily drink for today. Y'all be blessed. We'll see you tomorrow.